Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new landscape photography vlog. Here we are at Red House Lake, and I'd be lying if I said this was my first attempt at filming this video. I don't know what it is, but I've been wanting to take some panoramic photos, not only just here, but just in general lately. I don't know, I've been kind of on a kick for it, so that's just kind of what I'm doing today. But it's not going to be the main focus of today, as I did bring my 24-200 Z lens. I don't know the exact name, but it's f4 because it is a rather rainy, misty, dreary day, and I figured I'd want a little bit more reach to kind of focus in on some details off in the distance. But the last two times I came here were to try to take a pano from this exact spot, getting the rolling hills, and what I think the two times I went was supposed to be a good sunset. Wasn't really the greatest, so I ended up just kind of scrapping it. And the funny thing is, as I ended up taking a pano on my phone, and I really, really like it, like a lot. Not only were the conditions pretty good that day, but the angle that I took it from and the thing that I chose to include in it, being these trees here to my left, that I thought I wouldn't want in, all of a sudden just looked really good on the far left of the photo. So I'm trying to experiment taking a pano with my actual camera, and I'm trying to figure out what the best angle is, whether or not I want to do a long exposure or not, just because there isn't too much texture in the sky, and maybe I figured doing a long exposure could help bring out some of that movement, what little bit of movement there is, and perhaps maybe some movement in the fog, just to try to make things look a little bit more dreamy, ethereal, etc. But I think the spot that I'm in is a little too, I think I need to be more over there, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm gonna move my camera over here, set it up in the water, level it, and take a few more to see if I can get it right. Because I don't think I got it right here. So it's just gonna be a lot of trial and error with the ND filter on, with it off, and yeah, I mean, there really is no specific plan today other than that, just kind of being out here on Christmas Eve, no less. There is some frost on the lake too, which I've never seen this lake frozen, so that's cool. And it's just going to be a good day of photography, I think. So keep you guys posted. But first, we're going to do another pano here, just cause. And I'm also going to switch to manual mode. Gasp, right? Manual mode. We're going to go up to, because the only reason I'm doing manual mode here is because I want to have consistent shutter speeds throughout the entire photo, instead of it automatically metering between each photo. And I think 25 seconds at f11 will work just fine for that. I'm going to focus out like in the middle of the pano, where I think that might be, which, I mean, that is definitely infinity out there, at least from where I'm standing. There we go. So now we've locked focus. I'm just going to reset at the starting point. And yeah, f11, 28 seconds, ISO 100. I mean, I am slightly overexposing it, so I can maybe turn the ISO down. ISO 80. Yeah, I think that'll do. So let's do it. It's also not incredibly freezing today either, which is a huge bonus. So I feel like on those days where it's super cold, and it's so cold to the point where, like, your hands hurt being outside of your pockets for more than 30 seconds, it definitely has an effect on how ambitious I want to be in terms of Do I want to change lenses? Do I want to put on that polarizing filter that I think would look pretty good here? Do I want to try a long exposure that I also think would look pretty good here? You know, all of these things. And it's just like, but do I want to go through the 2 to 3 minute setup of just sheer pain in my hands to get to that? Some days that is easier said than done. But luckily today, I think it's like in the mid 40s. And I don't even need gloves on, so. All right, here's the deal. We just did another panel from a little bit farther to the right. It kind of helps me get out in front of this bank here, which is kind of what I want. And, you know, since we're already in manual mode, I kind of want to go, and look at this stance that I got to be in. This is the stance I got to be in. I kind of want to go longer than 30 seconds. So, that's what I'm going to do. Well, I mean, really, I've only been going 25 seconds, but I think to really get the look that I'm going for, we're going to have to go a little bit longer than that. Now, it's like middle of the day. It is currently 2:22, so it's kind of bright outside. So I really don't know how long we're going to be able to go without blowing things out, I guess is the real question. Because I'm already at F11, and I could go up to like F13. It's probably about as high as I want to go. And I might actually just stop right here and not get this stuff here on the right. So I'm gonna try a series of 1 minute exposures. We'll just see how that looks. Get this handy dandy stopwatch set up on the phone. Make sure I've got my 2-second pre-shutter timer. And let's do it. ISO 64, F11, 1 minute exposures. And the more I can get the fog and these really low hanging clouds to look like wispy tendrils, you know, the better. So we got to really drag the shutter because they are moving, but they're moving very, very slow. My only worry is that I might just blow out the sky if I go longer than a minute. I mean, I could put another ND filter on top of the one that I'm using, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to put a bunch of glass in front of my lens. Not unless I absolutely have to. All right, we're coming up on 1 minute here. And then we're obviously just going to repeat this a bunch of freaking times until we get it right. Another 1 second, and I'm probably excluding 2 frames on the right. So this will take less time than doing it, I think, 30 seconds the other way. Another thing I'm starting to notice too is there's some low-hanging fog kind of building up on the shoreline over there. Looks kind of nice. There's a few seagulls that are just hanging out on the ice over there. So that might actually make a cool wildlife shot. One of the things I was hoping to see when I came here was eagles and osprey, because I've seen them around here. I've just never seen them like, you know, how you always see every Instagram influencer. They're always getting the money shot of the 3 eagles perched in a hemlock tree on a snowy day, right? And then I go out to look for eagles, and I get nothing. Absolutely zero. I'll see a couple of crows if I'm lucky. Boom, 1 minute. And no wind is obviously a huge bonus because we do have some branches in the shot and they are perfectly still. This fog keeps coming in and out of existence on some of the tops of these hills. So hopefully we're catching that movement as it kind of dances along them. Like it's almost not necessarily like fog, it's just these clouds are like really, really, really low. So it makes for a nice, it makes the hills seem a little bit bigger than they actually are. Makes them kind of look like mountains instead of just hills. 45 seconds on this one. I mean, I probably should have checked the first exposure just to see how it looked before I committed to the whole thing, but you know, we're already here, so we are just gonna commit. Boom. Yeah, not an eagle in sight, not a bird of prey, nothing. And I think the first night that I drove down here to film a vlog similar to this was last week, I think, on like a Wednesday, and I saw two eagles over there flying, you know, right next to each other. They were pretty high up. There's no way I'd get a photo of them with even this lens at 200. That would just make them not look like blurry specks. So they're around here. So are the osprey. I've seen them around here, but never in that perfect position where they're just perched up somewhere, posted up, chilling. Not yet, anyways. Because that's the type of photography I'd like to break into. Is some wildlife stuff. Maybe that'll be kind of an adventure for 2024. Definitely gonna need a longer lens, but those bad boys are expensive. Ideally, there's two lenses I'm looking at. It's either and obviously I got to stay within Nikon. I mean, I don't have to. I could go third party, but if I can stay native, I'd like to. There's two lenses. It's the Z, I think it's f4 or 5.6, 100 to 400. I've seen a lot of great reviews on that lens. I know a couple of people who use it and say it's a great lens. And then there's the newer one they came out with, I think in August of 2023. And it's it's like 160 to 600. And it's definitely a little cheaper, but I think it's like f6.3 or 5.6 compared to the f4 on the 1 to 400. And their price points differ quite a bit, obviously between f4 and f5.6 or whatever it is. So it's one of those lenses that I'd like to add to the arsenal. And then alongside that, a really wide angle lens, like a 14 to 34, because I like my 24 to 70, I like the 24 to 200, but there have been plenty of times where 24 millimeters is just not wide enough, especially on shots where I feel like I want to get low to the ground. There's a lot of detail I want to capture. You kind of got to compromise in certain aspects. And it's just like opens up a lot of opportunities. And you can do wide angle stuff without having to bust this thing out, which, I mean, I like using the gimbal. I like taking panos, but if some cases I can, get as wide as I can with a pano with just a single lens and a single photo, I won't say no to that. And I think that is our last one. So let's see what these look like right now. So here is the final edited result. Now, I was talking about how there was like a little lens flare that was showing up on each of these long exposures, and I don't think it's a lens flare. I think it's actually a sensor spot. It's got to be, because it always shows up in the same exact spot regardless of the conditions, right? It really wasn't that bright to cause lens flares, so I think I'm going to have to give my sensor a nice little cleaning. But, this is the final result, and I just really like this angle. I thought I would hate the little island there on the left, the tree leaning over the lake. But I just love it. And there's some really nice colors there in the dirt, in the moss, in the bark, in the pine needles, or, all that stuff. Like, it just looks so good. And then you get to kind of see underneath the water there where there's some even more of that nice color and texture. So yeah, very happy about this. And I think I'll try to shoot it again when the conditions look different. Maybe when we have a really nice fire sky. Maybe, we got some star trails, we got the Milky Way. Who knows? There's plenty of opportunities. I just love this composition. And let's hop back into the field. Yeah, I mean, that should stitch together pretty easily, I hope. Another thing that I'm noticing too, there's a bunch of fishing lines hanging from all these trees, which kind of sucks considering the likelihood of some bird getting stuck in one of them while they're perched in one of these trees here. It's kind of high, I guess, at that point. Hopefully there's no hooks attached to them, but people got to do a better job at not casting their line when there's a tree behind them like that. I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of them. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. All right. I got to think about what I'm going to do next. All right, so it has been maybe 20 minutes or so since I talked to you guys last, maybe a little bit longer than that. And there definitely is such thing as staying in one spot for too long. And while I really, really love this view, I think it's time that I move to a different spot and try to get some different angles. What I've done is I've set up here, back over here, in a couple of different, slightly different angles, and basically did the setup for simulated long exposures, where I did use the timer on my phone, because I still don't know how to use the intervalometer. 2024 will be what that's for. But all jokes aside, just every 10 seconds taking a photo at normal metered exposure, and did that for 3 minutes. So every photo on the 10-second mark, starting at 0, for 3 minutes. I think it's like 21 photos or something. And we'll blend all those together in Photoshop and see what they look like. See if they look just as good as a regular long exposure does with an ND filter. And it's also, just after 3 o'clock now, so it'll start getting a little darker, hopefully, where we won't, like having an actual ND filter on will be enough. But I think I want to walk the trails now, because a lot of the fog that was kind of forming on that edge of the lake is kind of like slowly blown over here, and it kind of keeps rolling in and kind of fading in and out. It's also getting a little colder too. Well, I guess not really. It's kind of the same temperature right now as it was when we got here. But yeah, that's kind of the plan. We're just going to walk around. I'm going to put some stuff away. I'm going to try to keep the ND filter off the camera for today, because it's kind of driving me a little crazy, and yeah, I don't know. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, before we actually leave, this fog is really kicking up right here. And there's this sort of like downed tree just sitting in the water. And I'm cropped in on it all the way at 200. And I don't know, I just really like the way it looks. So I'm just going to try to put it dead center. Kind of make it symmetrical. Just taking a regular metered exposure. I probably could drop down to like F9, ISO 64, yada yada, same thing. All right, I think that's good though. I think we should move out. And maybe, as I say that, I was like kind of shooting over this way. And I'll switch over to video here on the camera. Pardon the white balance. I'm going to have to fix that in post. I kind of like this. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't like it. It's just, I don't know. That's really all I have to say, is I don't know why I don't like it. I just don't. And I guess that's fine. Switch back to regular camera. The white balance on this camera, when you switch it over to video, goes like blue, like completely blue. Another thing with this fog too, though, is like as it drifts over here, not only has it been really wet and misty, so all the trees have like a really nice pop to them with like moss and stuff, but obviously with fog, you know, comes great woodland conditions. So I'm kind of curious to see what some of the stuff down here is going to look like, and that maybe I'm missing it just by standing here trying to get, you know, the same shot that I've been getting. So I'm going to walk down on the shore here and see what some of this stuff over here looks like. And I probably should have grabbed my tripod, but I should be able to take at least a handheld photo or two. It's starting to get really foggy here. All right, we need to move. We need to get going out of the same spot. So I just moved down the trail a little bit, and I'm behind that island that we were shooting when we were pointing the camera out over the lake. And there's this nice little reflection we have here. And obviously we have the fog in the background. And I think it looks really nice. I'll quickly just show you guys here on video. I do have the stuff on the right cropped out. But actually, now that I see it here on video, I think it actually does look a little bit better with those trees in on the left side. But I kind of like this, like this, but I was more so like this. And again, we'd have a little bit more on the top and the bottom, so we can actually see the tops of the tree. So that's just an idea there of what we're working with. But let's try to zoom out a little bit more. And I might try portrait orientation too. I'm just doing 5-step bracket. Nothing crazy for these. Honestly, probably only could be like, you know, like 3-step. But I'm a psycho. And I like to take unnecessary steps. There we go. I just like focusing off on like debris and stuff in the water, especially with the fog hanging in the background. Looks gnarly, and I like it a lot. All right, we got another photo. This tree here to my left, I really like the shape of it. I also really like the color of the moss and the lichen on the branches. And the, what I presume to be hemlock or some kind of evergreen on the left, well, behind it, makes a really nice backdrop. You know, to help it stand out against the background. It's exactly what we want. I might need to move over a tad. As little as the sky is possible. I'm at about 105 millimeters. f6.3 ISO 64. I'm gonna go up a little bit, maybe to f8. But I really like the way it looks. I wonder if there's a way to like, if only I didn't have the really bright sky behind it. I don't know. I like everything about it but the sky being in it. All right, so I just found a super cool little spot just down a ways from that tree we were just photographing, and right up against the shoreline. But this is a sick little angle here. So I'm gonna set up just for a normal photo. Now I'm sure you can see the challenge is that there's tons of brush here on either side, and this is where, if I could ever just get into the water a tad, this would be the spot to do it. Whatever branches I've got in frame here, I should be able to clone out, because they'll be relatively out of focus, and the backgrounds behind them are very easy, just copy, paste texture. So F10 ISO 100, 5-step bracket. I mean, like, I wish I could just get what I see here with my eyes, but like, this is maybe one of those rare occasions where I dare try a handheld pano. Which I'm gonna want my ISO up high, lower the f-stop a tad, and make sure I don't have the shutter timer on, because that kind of makes things a little annoying. So I'm at ISO 400, I'm at just about 50 mil. And I'd be shocked if that stitched, or will stitch. It's all about, you just need a fast enough shutter speed. That's it. You just need a high shutter speed, so that when you do take your picture, as you pan from left to right, you know, there's no movement, obviously, because you're gonna wanna keep a steady kind of turn. So if you don't fully come to a stop and you got a little movement left, you wanna make sure you're at like a high enough shutter speed for that. Maybe ISO 800. Like, I don't really wanna step into the water here. Oh, that looks so good. So I think I've taken, you know, a decent amount of handheld panos, but you can never be too sure. Like, all it takes is Lightroom just to not get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the pictures and says, yeah, I can't stitch that, boss, and then you're screwed. So like, I kind of want the fog to recede a little bit, but I feel like the lines of the hills should be enough for it to figure it out. And again, I don't want to step in the water here. I don't want to do that. I mean, there might be a better spot to stand down the path a bit, but I like this vantage point a lot, just because the way the hills are positioned, everything's kind of neutral. So I'm trying to step out as far as I can. And whatever bramble and brush is getting in the way, relatively out of focus and just in the foreground against, again, the easy texture of the lake. And should be very, very easy to get rid of in Photoshop. Okay, it's tough because you gotta like try to hold perfectly still as you go from left to right. Make sure you're, like, I'm using, I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the built-in level on my camera, I'm using that green line. I'm trying to keep it green to indicate that it's level, and I'm also trying to keep that green line, once it is level, in line with the horizon. Again, that'll give Lightroom its best chance to stitch it together. But let's move down a ways, see if we can get a better opening. And I don't have to, like, you know, reach out to try to get this panel. If it stitches, though, that's going to be amazing. Okay, so we've moved down the ways. There is another opening here along the shore. I can actually get into the water a little bit, but I had to break a very thin, very, very, very thin sheet of ice just to get the tripod down. Nothing too serious, nothing too crazy. And I'm curious to see what a long exposure does here. All right, curious. You know me, I gotta try the long exposure. Which I think I'm still focused in, so I'm just gonna throw this bad boy on. And we're gonna have to crank the ISO up just a tad. It's getting so foggy you can't even see anything out there. But I'm just curious as to what it looks like, you know? The fog is kind of, like I said, it likes to form out there on that side of the lake, and then it kind of blows across to this side. But I've seen photos, and I'm sure anybody watching this who frequents Instagram has seen photos of, like, I think they're in California, because they get lots of, like, tons of fog up there, like, from the hills, and people, like, shoot down into the hills, and you see it just looks like flowing water, but it's fog, right? And that's definitely the result of a long exposure. But here, you know, after 30 seconds, not really quite getting the same effect, which, I mean, to be expected. This fog isn't really moving so much. At least it doesn't really look like it's moving. It just kind of looks like a big gray blob. Maybe if I was at like a different angle, I could get it better. But yeah, I don't know. It was worth a shot. I don't really like it too much. I tried to get some videos of some chickadees playing around in the brush, as well as some photos. I just really hope that handheld panel stitches together. If that does, I'll be happy. I'll be happy with that. If nothing else looks good to me, if that panel stitches, I'll be pumped. It's about 4:30, and it's going to be getting dark here pretty soon, pretty fast. So just wrapping things up, taking a few last photos here. There is a nice stand of barren trees just on the end of this little hill I'm on before you hit the road. And I think they look pretty nice with the fog directly behind them. They just make for some really nice shapes, and I'm just kind of experimenting with different compositions, pointing the camera down a little lower so there's more fog behind them and less just of the trees and stuff. But yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I still haven't fully walked this entire trail just yet, and today still might not be the day for that. But I'll just switch over to video here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Yeah, I mean, the white balance on this is completely off, but you guys can get the gist of the composition here. I think it looks pretty solid, very minimalistic, which is something I like kind of want to do more of, just because I like the way those photos look. They're just very easy to take, and at least editing, I guess, for the most part, is pretty easy on those as well. But yeah, that's the composition. I'm just at f10, ISO 64, aperture priority. And the fog's getting a lot heavier now. A lot heavier. Something about gnarly looking tree branches in fog that just, I love. I don't know what it is. Maybe these trees over here. Yeah, this is something I might need to walk out a little bit for. Oh yeah. All right, new composition here. Switching over to video mode real fast. Just a lone bundle of trees on the hill, just getting obscured by the fog here. And I'm choosing to leave a little bit of the hill there on the bottom left. But I mean, other than that, it just looks great. Very simple, very easy. Probably gonna take literally 5 minutes to edit. Not even. And there's some like some birch or aspen trees off to the right, and you can just kind of see them peeking through. And as the fog recedes a little bit, they're starting to come out a little bit more and more. Take a few more of these. Just a few more. Yeah, I think that looks pretty damn good. Nice. Nice. Oh my god. Everywhere I look, it's just something. All right, so I lied. One last composition. You guys can kind of see it here. I am in portrait mode, and I'm zoomed in quite a ways. Have this path here lead all the way into that one tree. Complete, basically, foggy background. And I did a focus stack, but honestly, I don't even know if I would like a focus stack on this. I think it looks really good without a focus stack. I'm at f10, ISO 64, and it just looks pretty damn good. My apologies for the abrupt ending. I did forget to film an outro for this vlog, so I do apologize for that again. But thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey. Hope you enjoyed this style of video, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon with a brand new adventure at Letchworth State Park.